Brace yourself for a mind-blowing journey through the short but extraordinary life of a worker bee. Day 1. A tiny egg hatches in the honeycomb. The newborn larva emerges, blind and helpless. Day 2. Nurse bees feed the larva royal jelly, kick-starting its rapid growth. Day 3. The larva's body begins to take shape, developing segments and rudimentary organs. Day 4. Constant feeding continues as the larva grows at an astonishing rate. Day 5. The larva's body doubles in size, filling its cell in the honeycomb. Day 6. Worker bees seal the cell, preparing for the larva's transformation. Day 7. Inside the sealed cell, the larva begins to spin a cocoon. Day 8. The larva's body undergoes dramatic changes as it enters the pupal stage. Day 9. Wings and legs start to form as the pupa develops. Day 10. The pupa's body darkens, and its features become more defined. Day 11. Eyes, antennae, and mouthparts take shape within the cocoon. Day 12. The pupa's body continues to mature, preparing for emergence. Day 13. Worker bees sense the developing bee is almost ready to emerge. Day 14. The young bee chews through its cocoon and cell cap, ready to join the colony. Day 15. Weak and pale, the newly emerged bee takes its first steps in the hive. Day 16. The young bee's exoskeleton hardens and its wings unfurl. Day 17. Now, a nurse bee, it begins caring for younger larvae in the hive. Day 18. The bee's glands develop, allowing it to produce royal jelly for the larvae. Day 19. Tirelessly, the nurse bee tends to the developing brood, feeding and cleaning. Day 20. The bee's body continues to mature, preparing for new roles in the colony. Day 21. Transitioning to a house bee, it begins to clean and maintain the hive. Day 22. The bee learns to build and repair honeycomb cells with precision. Day 23. It takes on the role of storing and packing pollen brought by foragers. Day 24. The bee's wax glands activate, allowing it to produce wax for the hive. Day 25. Now a food processor, the bee receives nectar from foragers and converts it to honey. Day 26. The bee's body prepares for guard duty, developing its sting apparatus. Day 27. As a guard bee, it fiercely protects the hive entrance from intruders. Day 28. The bee's wings strengthen as it prepares for its first flights. Day 29. On its first orientation flight, the bee memorizes the hive's location. Day 30. The bee practices short flights, honing its navigation skills. Day 31. Now a forager, the bee embarks on its first nectar-gathering mission. Day 32. The bee's body adapts to the demands of long-distance flying. Day 33. It learns to communicate the location of food sources through waggle dances. Day 34. The bee's sense of smell sharpens, allowing it to detect flowers from afar. Day 35. Tirelessly, it collects pollen and nectar from dawn to dusk. Day 36. The bee's wings show signs of wear from constant flying. Day 37. Despite fatigue, the bee continues its vital role in pollination. Day 38. The bee's body begins to show signs of aging from its relentless work. Day 39. It pushes on, driven by instinct, to support the colony. Day 40. The bee's flights become shorter as its energy wanes. Day 41. Still determined, it continues to forage for the hive's needs. Day 42. The bee's wings fray at the edges, making flight more challenging. Day 43. It spends more time resting between foraging trips. Day 44. The bee's body shows visible signs of wear and tear. Day 45. Despite its declining strength, the bee persists in its duties. Day 46. The bee's flights become increasingly erratic and unsteady. Day 47. It struggles to return to the hive after each foraging trip. Day 48. The bee's wings can barely support its weight during flight. Day 49. On its final flight, the bee ventures out one last time for the colony. Day 50. Having given its all for the hive, the worker bee's brief but impactful life comes to an end, leaving behind a legacy of tireless service and sacrifice for the greater good of the colony.